In the quiet village of Abaka, nestled amidst rolling hills and whispering palm trees, Ebele was known as Aja Nwai, the woman of the shadows. Her life had unraveled the day her husband, Chijioke, left for the city with dreams of wealth and never returned. Left behind with their two children, Kelechi and Adaize, and a mountain of death. Ebele's once vibrant spirit dimmed under the weight of survivor. Ebele sold roasted corn by the roadside under the relentless heat of the Abaka sun. Her hands were always blackened with soot, and her heart weighed down with a sorrow that even her children's laughter could not lift. Kelechi, the older of the two, often helped fetch water from the village well, while Adaize hawked puff-puff at the market. They were thin, their once round faces sharpened by hunger, yet they rarely complained. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Ebele sat outside their small mud house. Kelechi had returned from fetching water, coughing from the harmattan dust, and Adaize was nursing blistered feet. "Mama," Adaize whispered, her small voice trembling, "do you think Papa forgot about us?" Ebele's heart broke at the question, but she could not find an answer. Her throat felt too tight, her pain too raw. She pulled Adaize close, stroking her hair and whispering softly, "Your papa loved you, maybe. Your papa loved you. Maybe. Maybe the city kept him longer than he thought." That night, as the star blinked above, Ebele made a decision. She would leave Abaka to search for Chijioke. If the city had swallowed him, she would dive into its depths and bring him back. The journey to Lagos was long and fraught with uncertainty. Ebele sold her few belongings, a wooden pestle, a faded wrapper, and her only pot to pay for the trip. She kissed her children goodbye, promising to return with hope. When she arrived, Lagos overwhelmed her. The cacophony of horns, the endless streams of people, and the towering buildings were unlike anything she had ever known. But she was not deterred. She began her search for Chijioke, starting with his last known address, a crumbling tenement in Ajegule. The landlord sneered at her inquiries. "Chijioke, that man disappeared long ago, owed me 6 months' rent, and vanished like a thief in the night." Ebele wandered the street for weeks, asking strangers and visiting churches. Her desperation grew as her money dwindled. One evening, she sat by the roadside, her spirit nearly broken, when she overheard a man speaking Chijioke's name. "Please," she said, her voice trembling, "did you know my husband?" The man hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me." He led her to a ramshackle wooden shack. Inside, lying on a thin mattress, was Chijioke. His once strong frame had withered, his eyes hollow and defeated. "Ebele," he rasped, his voice filled with disbelief and shame. Ebele fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. The anger and hurt she had carried for years dissolved into a deep, aching sorrow. "Chijioke," she whispered, "your children have waited. I have waited." He broke down, sobbing. "I failed you," he said. "The city broke me. I couldn't face you, couldn't face them." Ebele cupped his face in her hands. Her voice steady despite the storm inside her. We can't change the past, but you are still their father, and they need you. We will rise, Chijioke. Together, we will rise from the shadows. The journey back to Abaka was filled with uncertainty. Chijioke's frailty made the trip difficult, but Ebele's determination carried them forward. When they arrived, the sight of Kelechi and Adaeze running to meet them was both heartwarming and heartbreaking. "Mama!" Kelechi shouted, stopping short when he saw the gaunt man beside her. "Papa!" Adaeze stared, her wide eyes filling with tears. Chijioke dropped to his knees, his arms outstretched. "My children," he whispered, "forgive me." They ran to him, their small arms wrapping around his frail body. Ebele watched, her heart breaking and mending all at once. But the whispers in Abaka began almost immediately. "He left them to die," one woman said at the market. "And she took him back," another scoffed. Ebele ignored them, focusing on rebuilding their lives. Chijioke helped where he could, fetching water and crafting bamboo cages to sell. For a moment, it seemed the worst was behind them. Then one night, Adaeze fell ill, her small body burned with fever, and her once bright eyes dimmed. Ebele and Chijioke tried everything: herbs, prayers, cool clothes, but the fever only worsened. "You need to take her to the clinic," Ebele said, her voice filled with panic. "But we don't have the money," Chijioke replied, his voice breaking. Ebele's eyes burned with desperation. "Then we'll beg." At the clinic, the nurse demanded payment before administering treatment. Ebele and Chijioke scrambled to collect the funds, knocking on doors and pleading with villagers. By the time they returned with the money, Adaeze was barely breathing. She died that night, her small body still and cold in Ebele's arms. Ebele's screams echoed through Abaka, a sound so raw and haunting that even the villagers who had turned them away wept. Chijioke collapsed by Adaze's grave, whispering apologies that no one would hear. Kelechi stood silently, his young face etched with grief far beyond his years. Ebele's sorrow burned like fire, but beneath it smoldered a determination stronger than the pain. As she stared at the small grave, she made a silent vow. "This will not be our end," she whispered. "We will rise. No matter how many shadows fall, we will rise."